Want more energy, a clearer mind, less joint pain, and less GI symptoms? Supporting your body starts with reducing inflammation, and the food you eat every day can be your most powerful medicine. When you choose the right ones, you're not only just calming inflammation, you're unlocking the version of you that feels stronger, sharper, agile, and more like your optimal self. In today's video, we will be breaking down the anti-inflammatory diet, what it is, what to eat, and what to avoid. The biggest drivers of chronic illness isn't just about stress or genetics, but it's silent inflammation. What is inflammation? Inflammation is actually your body's initial way of protecting yourself and triggering the immune system so that you can heal from any injury, you can fight off foreign invaders. But it's when this inflammation and your immune system goes awry where you have chronic inflammation. And when you have chronic inflammation, that can be bad because your own tissues and organs can get damaged, leading to chronic disease. There are many chronic diseases that are linked to chronic inflammation, such as autoimmune disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety, heart disease, hormonal imbalance. It's even being studied for aging, and they call it inflammaging. 70% of your immune system is in your gut, so a lot of times inflammation starts in your gut and spreads outward to other parts of your body and spreads systemically. So following an anti-inflammatory diet is one of the crucial steps you need to do to help reduce inflammation and reduce the complications from any chronic medical illness you may have. Because you see, when you eat, it goes to your gut. And so basically your gut is like your barrier of the outside world to your inside world. So you want to be sure that your gut is not chronically inflamed. Otherwise, that leads to systemic inflammation where it can affect your other organs, including your brain. How do you know you have inflammation in the first place? There are many symptoms that can indicate that you are inflamed, but some of the more common ones are brain fog, depression, anxiety, skin issues such as eczema, hives, itching, headaches, GI symptoms, joint pains, muscle fatigue, recurrent infections. An anti-inflammatory diet can lower some of the markers that are associated with inflammation, such as CRP, interleukin-6. CRP tends to be higher when you have acute inflammation. It's not always elevated with chronic inflammation, so a normal CRP doesn't necessarily rule out that you have zero inflammation. An anti-inflammatory diet also reduces inflammation by stabilizing your blood sugars. It strengthens your gut linings. It also helps balance your microbiome. It helps you manage your stress better because you're getting all the vital nutrients, antioxidants, and polyphenols that help reduce oxidative stress. What should you eat on an anti-inflammatory diet? You definitely want to eat a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables. You may have heard of eating the rainbow. There are several color groups of fruits and vegetables, and each color group have certain polyphenols. And polyphenols are groups of compounds in plant-based foods. Polyphenols are also found in foods such as dark chocolate, teas, spices, but typically these are foods that are rich in certain colors and pigments. Optimally, it would be good to get 1 to 2 servings from each color group. But if you're not eating any fruits or vegetables right now, or very minimal, just so it doesn't upset your stomach, you may want to pick 1 or 2 colors one day and then another 1 or 2 colors the next day, and so on, and slowly work your way up to where you're getting 1 to 2 servings from each color group every day. You also want to make sure that you are getting omega-3 rich foods. Omega-3 rich foods are so important for reducing inflammation. These are things like fatty fish. So there's an acronym called SMASH that makes it easy to remember the fatty fish. But omega-3 fats are very anti-inflammatory. If you're a vegetarian, even if you're not vegetarian, you can get them from chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. Your body has to go through an extra step to get the omega-3 from those foods. You could also use algae oil if you're vegetarian. Another group of foods that you want to add are fiber. Fiber is so important because it feeds your good bacteria. And when you feed your good bacteria, it produces something called a short-chain fatty acid. The beneficial short-chain fatty acids are butyrate, propionate, and acetate. Butyrate is especially anti-inflammatory, so it helps keep the inflammation down in your gut. Short-chain fatty acids may also help to signal some of your appetite and satiety hormones, so it may help with weight. And it also may play a role in neurotransmitter signaling to your brain and hormone signaling. So it's really important to get fiber. For women, 25 grams is a goal, and for men, 34 grams. However, even for women, if you are already getting 25 grams, I would aim for 34 grams of fiber a day. Another class of foods are herbs and spices. Most spices, if they're rich in pigments, help you reduce your inflammation. So definitely experiment with different spices. A lot of spices can even help with pain, such as turmeric. You also want to try to include green tea or matcha. Green tea has EGCG in it, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory, so having a cup of green tea in the morning can definitely be helpful. You want to make sure you get a good quality green tea, and if you have access to the actual green tea leaves, that's even better. If you are sensitive to caffeine, you could brew your green tea and discard the first round, because that's where most of the caffeine is in the first brew, and then you could brew it again and then drink that. So what are some foods to avoid with an anti-inflammatory diet? Definitely want to avoid high sugary foods. So these are all the things most of us love to eat. So definitely you want to try to avoid donuts, cookies, cakes, candy, you name it. Now, I know that is unrealistic to say 100% of the time you're going to avoid these foods. So yes, you can include them in moderation, maybe plan for them, because when you plan for them, you're using the part of your brain that is not reactive. So then that way, when you're around it again, you're not going to grab it. But if you plan, okay, on Saturday, I'm going out to dinner, I'm going to have a piece of pie, your brain is being wired in a way where you're in control instead of you just going to a party and being like, oh, that pie looks good, let me eat it. And then that actually activates the limbic part of your brain that tends to make you more reactive when you're in those situations again. And it seems like a silly little thing to do, but it really does make your brain work differently. The other thing you can do is when you do plan for it and you eat it, go for a walk after your meal. Going for a walk for even just 10 minutes after a meal can lower the glucose load of that particular food you ate and have less impact and less inflammation from it. You want to avoid industrial seed oils. So basically it's easier to say the good oils like avocado, olive oil, and some people can tolerate butter, ghee, and extra virgin coconut oil, and even some sesame oils. Everybody's different. If you do use extra virgin coconut oil, for example, and your cholesterol is going up, you may be one of those people that can't handle that particular oil, so just stick to olive oil or avocado oil. You want to avoid highly processed foods because they tend to contain preservatives in there that tend to trigger inflammation. And this also includes certain drinks that you think are healthy, such as almond milk. Some almond milks have something called carrageenan in it, which can trigger inflammation. Now, for some people, you may want to avoid gluten. So there are people that have the celiac gene and may not actually manifest the disease. And there are people that don't have the gene, but they have triggered a food sensitivity, most likely from poor gut health, that makes them sensitive to gluten. So if you are gluten sensitive, and definitely if you have celiac disease, you want to avoid gluten to reduce the risk of your body chronically being inflamed by those products. If you have more of a food sensitivity and you don't have actual celiac, you can work with your healthcare provider to where you can eliminate it for a certain period of time, and then you can do a slow reintroduction where you may be able to tolerate small amounts of gluten. The other thing you want to avoid is excess dairy. So many people are sensitive to the A1 casein, which is a milk protein. Also, a lot of conventional dairy products have hormones or antibiotics. So if you do eat dairy, if it's available and within your budget, to do a grass-fed, grass-finished dairy product. So what's the best way to incorporate an anti-inflammatory diet? Because if you're eating the standard American diet, to go from that to suddenly going to this 100% anti-inflammatory diet is not going to be comfortable, and it's not going to last long because your body's not used to it, and it's going to make you want to eat. It's going to make you want to go back to your old way of eating. So what I would recommend first is actually just starting to add foods first. So adding some of these healthy fats, the omega-3s, the fiber, the fruits and vegetables. So that way you don't feel like you're taking away the other foods that you enjoy eating. So make it a goal every day to add a different type of food that's healthy for you. If you can add all of those groups in a day, that's even better. But if you can't, I would recommend starting with the fruits and vegetables because they also naturally have fiber in them. So this is not an overnight process. Healing your body is not an overnight thing. It can take a good 6 to 12 months if you're really incorporating these strategies to really start to feel better. You have eaten a certain way for so long that it's not going to be an overnight fix. So keep that in mind and just continually to work on it and focus on progress, not perfection, and start noticing some of the little changes that you may be feeling because over time that'll add up and you'll start feeling better in no time. Now I have people that'll start and they will feel better right away. So it's very individualized and it just depends on what's going on with your body. But when you add these other foods, you'll find that you'll start eating less of some of the inflammatory foods because you won't be as hungry. And also when your body is getting the right nutrients, it also doesn't trigger your appetite. Your appetite actually can go down. And then the second thing I would do is start getting your meals into having a protein, a fiber, and a healthy fat. So starting to gear your foods with that combination is really the best. Those are the best macronutrients to have in your meals. And you can add some of those starchy vegetables if you want. And so, adding the protein and fiber, it may help reduce the glucose load. You also can start adding a 10-minute walk after your largest meal of the day or whatever time is convenient. That can help reduce the impact of the glucose and sugar and processed foods. You also can start swapping any oils that you cook with. So if you cook with vegetable oil or canola oil, swap it out with avocado oil. Avocado oil has a higher heat point, so that's a good oil to cook with. You can use olive oil if you're cooking at lower temperatures. You can also add certain supplements to help reduce your inflammation if you're having trouble getting these foods to your diet. Because when you reduce inflammation, it does also reduce the brain inflammation or neural inflammation, which helps you make better decisions and helps you feel better. And then when you do feel ready to eliminate certain foods, you want to maybe start with one particular class of foods like dairy or gluten first. Chronic inflammation is the underlying causes of most medical illnesses, if not all. And a lot of my patients who do this, including myself, I have psoriatic arthritis, and I have found as I try to cut these foods out of my diet that I do feel a lot better. I'm not perfect, so when I do eat something that is more inflammatory, I do feel it. So food is medicine. Food is something we put in our body. It's going to have an effect. And the best thing is we can control this, and so we can control how we feel by just minding our diet. If you like this video, please subscribe for more functional medicine tips and have a fantastic day.